This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 108. And tonight, I'm joined by Ashkar.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And that's it.
You kept building there.
I know. I was purposefully doing that.
You were you?
Yeah.
All right.
And that's it. Because tonight we're down Thalen, who is off doing awesome things in Japan, and Grace, who had a family thing to deal with. So, yeah, it's just the four of us. Like, it's been a long time since it's been just the four of us. But anyway.
Nostalgia for times gone past or something?
No.
Something. We used to do this show with, like, 3 people. So, that's weird to think about.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so... Like, we have these huge casts, and it's like, wait, there's only 4 of us? Okay, so I have a little diatribe to talk about today. This week, I actually returned to Final Fantasy XIV for the first time in, like, 6 months. And I joined...
Of course, he won 2 ponies.
Yeah, I won 2 ponies. Like
exactly like Grace did.
Yep. And, so I joined in the Pony Farm night because I figured that was a easy way to ease in, and I ended up tanking all night just because I wanted to see if muscle memory was a thing, and it absolutely was a thing. I remembered I was off by a single piece of Velveeta.
What does that mean?
He was standing on slightly the wrong orange square in the Titan fight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I always thought the squares look like pieces of Velveeta.
Oh, is this like where tanks have to stand just right so that... Yeah. I remember you talking about this, but I never actually tanked Titan EX.
Yeah, no, there's squares. There's like these thick little squares of light orange rock or whatever that you stand on, and I think of them as pieces of Velveeta. I don't know why, but I was off 1. But I was close. Like, I was close enough to adjust. But anyway, so like I was kind of down on the notion of me as a tank, which is weird because like I've been a tank for so long. And
why were you down on yourself about you as a tank? That's actually interesting to me.
Well, okay, so like I was just wondering if like I had outgrown tanking, like I no longer enjoyed it. And in part of it is like the last place I was tanking was in World of Warcraft, and I was very much not enjoying tanking in that game. And I guess I had been gone so long from Final Fantasy XIV that I forgot what it felt like to tank in that game. So, I'd been in WoW, and, tanking dungeons was fine, but tanking raids, I did not enjoy at all. And I eventually, due to, I don't know, like I ended up not going to the raid that was happening on Wednesday nights in World of Warcraft. And a lot of it was just the fact that I didn't want to tank. Like I didn't mind showing up to DPS, but like I really just was not enjoying tanking. And sometimes when you don't do something long enough, you get it stuck in your head that like, maybe I'm bad at this thing. And that's entirely possible. Like, I mean, I'd built up this mental block. And then returning to Final Fantasy XIV, I was like, oh yeah, this game is just way funner to tank in than World of Warcraft.
Interesting.
And a lot of it comes from the precision of the game telling you things.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I think you don't like randomness. And from what I remember, WoW is kind of a very random game.
It's mostly the poor messaging. Like, I don't even mind random attacks. It's just never quite knowing, did I move far enough to avoid this attack? Or which direction do I need to turn the mob to keep from clipping the raid? It's all the little messaging that game does a horrible job at. And it's not, like, it's trying to message these things, but it's so imprecise in the way that it messages them. And I guess over the 2 years we played Final Fantasy XIV, I just got so used to the way Final Fantasy XIV messages what I need to do as a tank, and whether or not I have aggro on everything, and all of these little things.
You're going to be frustrated with me for this, but it's the same thing that I talk about with UI all the time. Like, you don't notice good UI until you don't have it.
Right. Well, and like even going back to WoW, I made my UI look a lot more like my Final Fantasy XIV UI, but it was just weird because like I had literally gotten to the point where I thought I was a horrible tank. Like, I'm not a good tank anymore. I must have lost my touch. I have aged out of the content. But coming back, like, it was like second nature. I could handle it without an issue. So I guess I may just not be a WoW tank anymore.
That's probably fine.
Like, I still enjoy, like, leveling as a tank because of, God mode leveling and not ever dying. But, man, I just don't like doing end-game content as a tank in that game. And this whole experience has just reinforced that notion.
I didn't see that.
But as far as Final Fantasy XIV, I have gone down, or I'm starting to go down the path of the Relic Weapon 2.0. And it's kind of an annoying grind, but feels far less annoying than the Atma step did from the previous Relic.
You currently have no idea. Just saying.
Yeah, because I haven't done half the madness you have done.
I'm not even. There is the first step is reminiscent of the Atma grind. I have skipped it twice now. The second step is run a bunch of dungeons, which I've done once. The third step is get a whole bunch of crafted materials and a whole bunch of these materials that you can get via a whole bunch of other things, but 80 of them. 80 of them. So I've just been they kind of come as you do other things if you do other things. Like the Alexander things drop pieces you can turn in for them. You can turn in your tombstones for them, including poetics. So all that raiding we do on Tuesday for ponies also works toward that.
Oh, nice.
So it's, if I were to treat it as like a single step that I want to do all at once, I would probably hate myself. But it's just kind of a gradual thing that I'm working towards, so it's not quite so bad.
Seems reasonable.
Mostly I figured it gave me a goal, because that was the big problem. Anytime I would log into the game, I didn't really know what to do, so I would log right back out. And this is at least something I can piddle towards in starts and stops. And, I spent the afternoon running around grinding Fates, and I remembered, oh yeah, I actually like Fates. I like Fates a lot. So it wasn't too painful. The drop rate is low, but it is nowhere near as low as the Atma drop rate was. However, you need 3 of each of the items instead of 1 of the item.
But there are also 6 total items instead of 12, so it's only 50% more.
Yeah, so 3 of each of the 6 items. I'm trying to catch up in the storyline. I did Anti-Tower, and that was fun. Although I don't know if it's just I've gotten used to predicting Final Fantasy encounters, but nothing really felt like it was tripping me up. There wasn't really any shocks, I guess, in that dungeon.
I think that's also because Final Fantasy encounters are kind of sort of by design. If you know how to do them, you can pick them up as you go through them.
Yeah, but even that, there have been several encounters that were surprising, like the Yeti encounter, for example. I didn't know to make snowballs at first. I could, if I accidentally clipped one of the guys, we saw that snowballs were happening, but it was kind of a moment of surprise when we saw that mechanic. But in Anti-Tower, I really didn't. There was nothing that I felt surprised by. There was meteors and what?
Not even the last boss.
The multi-phase or the meteors on the ground thing.
The dolls are the last boss of Anti-Tower.
Oh, not really. I've fought that boss before, so I was expecting it to be a little weird, but and the
last boss of Anti-Tower is Calcabrina from FF4.
Yeah,
it's a creepy doll.
Yes, creepy as shit. It was a boss I hated.
Is there some interesting mechanic there?
Sort of. Well, she will turn players into the dolls that she Well, let me start from the beginning. There are Kalka and Brina dolls, and then when you beat them all, they combine into one, which is expected if you played FF4.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And during the fight, you can turn players into these dolls.
And I
not
guess
really expected from FF4, but it kind of really self-explanatory how to get past that mechanic.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is like, yeah, that's different than what we've seen, and it wasn't something I expected from the Final Fantasy IV fight, but it's your standard break people out of a thing mechanic. And the annoying thing there is they spin around the room. So you have to go chase the player down and break them out. I've not done Lost City of Amdapor hard yet. I haven't figured out where to unlock that.
I think it's somewhere in Idleshire.
Probably. I think I maybe have the quest start, but I just haven't gotten through it. I have a stack of things to sift through. I've also got the quest starter for the new Hildebrand, but I haven't actually gotten very far in it.
Ooh, new Hildebrand. That's exciting.
Yep.
It's short, but it's really good.
Yeah, I need to.
There'll be a new one in probably about 2 weeks now.
I need to get back on all of that. I've been doing other stuff, and I forget that there's. I've been doing other stuff because I've been saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get into it when there's more content," and now there's more content, and I just forget.
Well, and mostly like there's a really big patch coming up soon, and I wanted to get in and catch up ahead of it.
Very
I don't
excited about
really
that
want
patch.
to catch up ahead of it because I want to have a glut of content that sustains me.
That's kind of where I'm at, but I'm happy to I'm happy to jump back in when there's a ton of content for me to enjoy.
The only negative right now is like it's going through that end of a patch cycle lag, and people are only logging in for Tuesday nights. Because most of the time I'm the only person around here lately.
I'm guilty of this.
Well, no, like the guild is still pretty active, but people aren't logging in other than raid night, which is, that's the standard operating procedure when you're towards the tail end of a patch.
We've gone through all content in the patch.
Yeah.
We kind of, sort of haven't, but the rest is Savage stuff and extremes. Although, to be fair, I'd really like to kill some of the current extremes.
Yeah, I would too. Like, I want to kill a bug on extreme. I've still not done that. Yeah, I haven't. I still haven't done Ravana extreme. I can do Bismarck really easily, but
I think I actually did do Ravana once on extreme with a different group.
It is shocking how fast the pony farm goes. Like, it is shocking how fast you can kill the old extremes.
Some of them.
And a lot of it, though, seemed to be like we had to throttle ourselves to keep from wiping. Like, there are certain things that, like, we'd have to slow down and, like, kill all the nails on a Freet, for example.
Yes.
Otherwise, we would absolutely push it too far and wipe.
So that was a danger when we were doing the fight at level 50. So at 60,
Yeah.
It's really, really touchy.
You spend more time not DPSing a Freet than you spend DPSing a Freet.
And for Garuda, who does not actually have appreciable mechanics, she goes down in less than 2 minutes.
Titan actually, like, surprisingly was pretty smooth.
Is
He
that...
still, however, has all of his mechanics.
Okay, I was about to say, can you ignore his mechanics at all?
Gravity still hurts.
Gravity still hurts? I guess that's good to know.
So the big difference on a lot of these fights is no tank swaps.
Oh, yeah.
So like it was hell, but I tanked a Freet all the way through the phases, even with the fully stacked debuff. Tank busters are no longer that big of a deal on Titan, so you just tank through it. So that's part of why they drop so fast, is you can go in with one tank.
Ramu still encourages the use of 2 tanks. If your tanks are warriors, that's not strictly necessary, because their massive health pool compared to the other tanks means that they can just live through a shock strike, which was intended to one-shot tanks.
Well, and that's in part the whole thing with the Freet, is like the massive health pool helps to soak the debuff, so you can't get one shot. Although I absolutely did get one shot once.
By a Freet?
Yeah, by a Freet.
Is
it
this
was
a Freet hard? Or
no,
EX?
extreme. Freet extreme.
Freet EX has a debuff that reduces your maximum health and increases your damage taken.
Oh.
So it absolutely required a tank swap when we were doing it for real. And realistically requires some massive cooldown use now to not tank swap.
Yeah, I was basically, when I ran out of cooldowns, it was pretty dicey, and Moore was having to heal his little ass off.
Do you have to pay attention to mechanics on turn 9 now?
Yes. Yes, you do.
Okay.
Don't think
Turn 9 is no easier than it was when we did it before, really. All the mechanics still happen.
Which is
including dive bombs.
Ugh.
Because when we went in with a slightly less than full group, we could not push him fast enough to kill him before dive bombs. But the only thing that doesn't matter is things that pretty much just did damage are pretty ignorable.
I feel like there are some things that just did damage, but their damage was enough to kill you.
Thermionic beam is still a one-shot if you take it alone, but even a pair of people can live now.
Through what?
Big beam?
Yeah, the big red beam.
Yes. Alone, it will probably still kill you. Iron Chariot does not do enough damage to really be threatening, but, well...
It'll push you to the edge.
Can push you into the wall.
It was absolutely entertaining for me that I consistently lived through the party wipe mechanic on the extreme bosses, like Leviathan.
Leviathan's tidal wave is apparently not strong enough that we had several people live through, and they spent so much time laughing at the fact that they lived that everybody fell off immediately.
Yeah.
Slammed the platform.
But it was entertaining as shit. Yeah, it was like, I think Moore and I were the ones that... it was me and Sibi or Athelia, or however you know her name. We survived, and we were just laughing because we didn't believe we survived.
Wow.
And then we got feared off. That was what happened.
No, you got the body slam after the tidal wave. Neither of you moved for it because you were too busy laughing.
Yeah, and I wasn't prepared to home gang. So, like, it still has its challenges, but it's a fun kind of challenge at this point.
Well, that's good. I'm gonna have to get back into it and then relearn my rhythm.
The funny thing is, like, it was shocking to me how much of it is just muscle memory at this point. Like, I remember the order in which I did, and I am somehow missing a hotkey from my bar, and I don't know what the ability was. And I have yet apparently to use the hotkey to tell me what I'm trying to hit.
Interesting. If this is just muscle memory, that's a really, really detailed muscle memory, because my rotation was nonsense.
I poked onto the Dragoon, and I mean, I didn't have the rotation you had, but it was still a Dragoon rotation, and I could nail it, like, right away.
That's good. That's exciting.
So, I mean, like, I think this sort of thing, when there is a specific pattern that you're following, I think we basically commit it to memory, or at least more so than we realize. Because, like, I expected to have trouble getting back in as a tank, and I literally logged in. I only had my tank gear where I thought that was the right set, and just sat down and started tanking, and it apparently worked.
Oh, that's good.
And I largely remembered the fights. But anyway, Tam.
What's up?
Mark of the Ninja. Tell us why you think it's the best stealth game.
So I really love stealth games, and I've been playing it. Basically, I've been wanting to play since playing Overwatch and playing a bunch of Hanzo and Genji. It's reminded me that I really want to play like a feudal Japan ninjas game, which Mark of the Ninja isn't, but it's sort of close-ish. Like, I was jumping around games to try to figure out what I was doing, or figure out how to get that experience. I jumped back into Mark of the Ninja, and I play a lot of stealth games, I may have mentioned. And Mark of the Ninja has this really... It distills what is good about stealth games into really great, discrete chunks, and messages really, really, really well. If you haven't played it, it's this 2D side-scrolling stealth 'em up, I guess. But it's got a couple of things that it does super, super well. Like, you can't see enemies unless they're like actually in the same space as you. Like, you can't stand on the edge of a room and see inside it. But you can hear them. If they're walking around, they make footsteps, and footsteps are rendered both as sounds, but as little you can see little like concentric rings indicating the sounds the footsteps are making and from where.
Those concentric rings also indicate how far the sound is traveling, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because you also make those concentric rings, and it's how you can identify if you are making noise enough that people can hear you.
Yeah, and it's really neat because it's this subtle visual, but the messaging is perfect. Like, you know exactly how loud you're being and what range people are going to hear you and so on.
So, like, the frequency between the rings denotes that it's traveling a long ways?
The actual size of the ring.
Oh, okay.
Like, you'll see the ring, like, if you're running, you'll see these huge rings every time your foot hits the ground. But if you're, like, sneaking around, you won't see any rings. And, like, just regular dudes walking around, you'll see little smaller rings. But, like, you're a ninja, so you've got better senses than they do, so you can sense them from further away than technically they should. But you can also, like, there's a lot of grates and vents and doors that you can sort of peek through. And movement is super solid. It's very, I'm trying to think of the game. You've got a grappling hook and can zip around.
The Bionic?
Yeah, it's very Bionic Commando.
Yeah. In
that kind of, like, use a grappling hook to get around the levels. But it's an aesthetic that I actually like, as opposed to Bionic Commando, which I don't. And so it's got this, it basically does, like, stealth games are really all about messaging. It does this neat thing where when you're in the darkness, the whole screen gets a little washed out and a little darker. And when you're in the light, it gets, like, you notice how bright it is. Like, the whole game's color palette feels like it's tuned for when you're in the darkness, so that when you're in the light, it looks overly bright and washed out. Like the light looks harsh, but it only puts that effect on when you're in the light. So you can see where the lights are without it being a problem, but then when you're actually in it, you're like, oh, I'm in the light, I don't want to be here.
The other thing that I noticed about it, what always struck me is, like, because it's in 2 dimensions, it's easier for me to keep track of... The messaging is easier for me to consume than a lot of 3D stealth games. Yeah. And, it's easier for me to know exactly what the consequences of my actions are going to be before I make that action. There's a lot less guesswork where it's like, can I move a little bit further? Will they see me? Won't they see me? I'm typically able to be pretty confident in exactly what the enemy's response to my decisions are going to be in this game. And I feel like in a lot of other stealth games, I don't have that degree of confidence, which frustrates me.
I can see that.
The other thing I love about this game is its level design. It lets me go all over the place. There are so many different paths I can choose. And there are so many different little, like, optional things I can try to get to. And
that's, to me, that's the thing that separates a stealth game from, like, a game like Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell has stealth, but its levels are fairly, not super linear, but kind of linear. They're more like set pieces versus big open. There's like 5 or 6 different ways for you to approach any given location. They feel like real spaces, even in 2D. As I'm moving around a space, they feel real. And so, like, I think, oh, hey, there's, this is a big industrial office. I bet there's a grate somewhere into the ventilation system. There it is. Or like, oh, this is somebody's little personal office. They may not have a big enough grate for me to fit through, and they don't.
There's also a lot of really great... that was a game where it was like, I had played enough of it, and I got... I knew what was terrifying to me, and like I saw some secrets where I was like, I have an idea of how to get to it. I'm just gonna walk by that one. Like, that's pretty awesome that somebody can get to it. That's not for me. I have yet to beat this game. I got to the part where the enemies started getting... I can't remember. It's after, like... I feel like there were enemy ninjas that had guns, and it got very frustrating for me.
I can see that.
I should go back to it at some point. I had a lot of fun with it. I love the sort of what I remember was like when you were aiming, it sort of freezes, so it does the whole bullet time thing.
Yeah.
But that works really well with it because like you're mostly bullet timing to like do sweet grappling hook maneuvers, because like you aren't bullet timing to take down enemies really.
Yeah, it isn't. You're knocking out lights, or it's like, oh, there's 4 lights here. I'm gonna throw a dart at all of them at once.
Or I'm going to like zip up. I'm going to do this really cool acrobatic thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like, oh, I'm cheating this system because
no, you feel like a ninja.
You're really not gonna be able to get what's it called? You're really not able to kill things with your kunai. Those things don't really do a ton of damage.
Are they mostly a distraction means, or
mostly they're great for destroying lights, and they can be I think they can stun your opponents.
Yeah.
But you have a sword.
You do have a sword. I also remember not using that too much. I feel like I let people walk by me and grab them and like choked them out.
That's the sword attack.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you basically stab them. They have an interesting thing going on where when you decide you're going to attack somebody, you make an attack and then you've got to whip the mouse or the controller in one direction or the other to make a clean attack.
I actually got pretty good at it. Also, I played with a controller, not a mouse and keyboard, which this was right after I got my gamepad, and I was all about playing as many games for my computer with a gamepad.
I can see that. Yeah, it was definitely really cool in that regard.
I think I own a copy of it. It's just, I don't know, like the whole 2D stealth thing did not seem like a game for me.
Oh man, I feel like 2D stealth is my new favorite type of stealth.
2D stealth is really neat because it gives you a lot of the things that are really cool about stealth games without the overhead in a lot of ways.
What sort of brought this up though was some poor attempts than Mark of the Ninja 2D stealth.
Oh yeah. So I started playing a game that I picked up on a humble bundle called Ronin, and it's got this really neat idea. It's basically a stealth game where crazy jumping is the thing. And so it pauses as you set up the arc of your jumps, and you can stick to walls and stuff, which is cool. I kind of like the idea, but it's really clunky feeling. And it's so important in especially a stealth game, and especially a game where movement is really important, that your movement not feel clunky. I mean, it's got this cool turn-based combat thing where you jump around and dodge bullets and all kinds of stuff, and you like knock out enemies by jumping on them or at them.
But just felt clunky, didn't work.
Well, there were a lot of times where I hit the button to jump and didn't mean to, and like couldn't figure out how to cancel a jump, or like I would want to move and the game wouldn't respond because it was paused, as if I were setting up a jump, and the only way I could figure out to get out of it was to jump, and sometimes I didn't want to.
So when you talked about wanting a feudal Japan ninjas game, I immediately thought of Tenchu. I think it was called Tenchu on the PlayStation.
Oh, Tenchu? Stealth Assassin?
Tenchu, yeah.
Yes. I can't find it. Like, I would play it. I can't seem to find it anywhere.
Like, I don't think there's been a modern version of it in a very long time. I think PS2 was the last platform.
No, it's because the very last one was pretty bad.
Because I think there was a Tenchu 3, right? That sounds familiar.
I think it was Tenchu's 1 and 2, and then Tenchu Wrath of Heaven, and then Tenchu Z.
Oh god, I don't even remember a Z.
Oh, was there one for the Wii?
Yes.
And I remember picking up Tenchu Z, and I think that was the one that wasn't very good.
Well, they apparently made an even worse one after that.
Oh?
Shadow Assault Tenchu.
Oh, that sounds bad. Oh, just the title alone.
Super cringeworthy?
Yeah.
I just remember not getting super along with that game because it really wanted me to sneak along the rooftops, and all I wanted to do was go kill things straight on at fights.
I think you were looking for a different ninja game.
I was wanting Shinobi, is what I was wanting.
Or Ninja Gaiden.
Or Ninja Gaiden?
Or Ninja Gaiden, yes.
Ninja Gaiden is one of the only hack and slash games I've played that I really liked. That game is hard, but it's really fun.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of the one that was on the PS3.
Yeah.
But my favorite will always be the Nintendo trilogy.
But what I really want, and like a game that I think would be really cool to play, is like a historic Japan, like a historic or mythic Japan or China kind of open world swords and so on game. And like, it doesn't seem to exist. Or at least I can't find it.
Was Assassin's Creed China not that?
Well, it's a 2D platformer.
Okay.
Which is not really what I'm looking for, because it doesn't have the same, like, explory depth. Good game, but...
I'm honestly shocked they haven't done Assassin's Creed Feudal Japan. Like, that seems like it's a game that is just waiting to be made.
I think it's because they care too much about history. Like, I mean, I totally honestly, like, they take their historics, like, they take a lot of liberties with history, but they don't really bend it too much, and it's really hard to insert a Middle Eastern themed like a Middle Eastern based organization in Japan prior to, like, I don't know, the 20th century, the 19th century, which doesn't mean they couldn't do it, but it wouldn't be feudal Japan.
I guess I wasn't paying attention. The other games in Assassin's Creed Chronicles series already came out while I wasn't paying attention.
India and Russia?
Yeah.
But they're all two-dimensional, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 2D stealth games. They're I mean, AC China, Chronicles China felt a lot like Mark of the Ninja. Better in some ways, worse in others, but cool. I haven't played India or Russia. But I kind of love, it's one of the things I love about the Assassin's Creed series, is it kind of explores, they make a point of putting a lot of historic stuff in there as, like, interesting stuff you can find. And, like, one of the most fun parts for me about the series is, like, finding a landmark and then reading stories about the landmark.
Yeah, and in that regards, they do try and be historically accurate.
Yeah. It's just enough historical accuracy that I feel like, learn some interesting stuff while also playing this cool game. I also enjoyed the Shogun series for similar reasons, but, like, Shogun isn't really what I'm looking for. Though also a very cool game. I like the game a lot.
As in the RTSE type game?
Yeah, Total Shogun and Total War.
I also enjoyed that game a lot.
Well, there's a much older Shogun game.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I didn't think you meant that.
No. There's also a Total War Warhammer game, which I'm surprised it took this long to make, but... Because that seemed like kind of a no-brainer.
I've heard it's really good.
It's true, yeah. I have also heard that it's really good.
And I guess there's a third Dawn of War game coming out, and Dawn of War is another example of Warhammer that I actually really like.
Dawn of War has been a very clever RTS series. It has been a very clever RTS light series for a very long time.
Oh, I was wondering if I missed it. Total War Warhammer is supposed to come out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was already out. Sorry.
No, not quite out yet.
I guess people have had pre-copies or stuff that I've seen floating around.
Yeah, I might pick it up. I haven't decided. I mean, I'm going to pick it up eventually. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up on Tuesday.
You don't know if it's, $60 worth of interesting?
It's more, I don't know if I have the time right now. And I know if I buy it and don't remember to play it, I'll forget about it.
Yeah. So, we don't usually talk rumors on this podcast that much, but there's one that I think is interesting enough that we should maybe talk about it.
Oh?
Yeah, and like I brought this up just a little bit, but I don't think a lot of people were paying attention when I mentioned it before we started recording. This week, Nintendo changed their articles of incorporation, which, like, I am by no means a business major, but we have a business major in this channel. But essentially, like, articles of incorporation are like the recipe of what a business says it's going to do. That's my simple understanding.
Yeah, I mean, kinda, basically.
So they changed their articles to reflect the stuff that they're doing in medical equipment, which is not that shocking.
Okay.
But they also changed it specifically to say they're going to create computer software.
As opposed to what?
Like,
is that just a general term?
I know I don't know. Like, that's the thing, is like nobody knows what this means. Like, are they talking about like their mobile games, or are they talking about something else?
So,
and there's a rumor floating around that they're considering putting stuff on Steam.
Yeah, no, I don't see that happening.
No,
in this decade.
Yeah, well, like the thing is like I don't necessarily see that happening, but I know Sega has been making serious bank selling their games, like the old console games, on Steam, and here recently they've added in Steam Workshop support, and like you can play Sonic 3 but entirely as Knuckles, or as like various other little mods that you can add in.
That's actually kind of significant in itself, and that's essentially officially sanctioned ROM hacks.
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of cool
from Sega.
Yeah. So, according to them, they are adding a audit and supervisory committee, and it looks like they are trying to limit the power of their board of directors. So, the reasons why they say they are doing this: the company is switching to a company with an audit and supervisory committee and establishing an executive office system. Add and change the purpose of the company in preparation for diversification. Limit the executive directors, which its board of directors may appoint, to president and director, chairman and director, and executive vice presidents and directors. And then other revisions.
Yeah, like, this kind of feels like...
We're adding lines of business?
It feels like CYA, honestly. Like, more about... we want to be able... We've been talking about some of these things, and we want to be able to do them without a bunch of rigmarole if we decide to do them in the future. I mean, I'm sort of with Ash that I don't think we're going to see Nintendo games on Steam anytime soon. But I am pretty sure we're going to start seeing Nintendo games on iOS.
That seems a lot more likely.
Like, if we don't see it by the end of the year, I'll be surprised.
Aren't we already about to see a Nintendo game on iOS? Didn't I just sign up for a beta for a Nintendo game on iOS?
Technically, no.
So, the Pokemon Company is, what, 1/3 owned by Nintendo?
Yes.
And, by the way, they already have a game on iOS.
What's that?
Pokemon Shuffle.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I am specifically Nintendo games, not games by studios that work exclusively for Nintendo.
Well, to be fair, when you say iOS, you're really meaning mobile.
Maybe?
Since, Miitomo and all of these other things are on both.
Have they? Okay.
Yeah, like I have Miitomo on Android, and it's available on the Google Play Store, it's available on the Amazon App Store.
I mean, mobile gaming is gigantic now, and I mean, it's bigger than so-called traditional games, or whatever you want to call them, console. And they've been sort of eating Nintendo's lunch more than any other console stuff has, so it's not surprising that they just sort of expand into them. It's just been a matter of when and how.
I still think Nintendo needs to give up the dream of being a hardware manufacturer and just make really good software.
I am unconvinced that is a good path forward.
I'm with Ash.
Because, I saw Sega.
Yeah, okay, but so even saying that, what doesn't work is the fact that they are consistently behind the curve in their consoles. Like, I mean,
not,
like, from a mobile standpoint, they're not. But
that
from
has worked.
Yeah, like Nintendo is significantly behind the cutting edge of hardware power, but they abandoned chasing the core gamer a decade ago.
Yeah, but I guess my problem is like the Wii U is a crappier version of...
Your problem is that you are not their target audience.
Well, no, like I'm not even talking about games. I am talking about their interface. The interface for the Wii U is a crappier version of PSN and Xbox Live. It just doesn't work as well.
Designed around that touchscreen.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, but it's missing functionality. Like, there is no integrated screenshot functionality other than pausing the game and posting it to like Facebook or something like that.
Yeah, but they don't.
There's no just taking screenshot.
Their target audience doesn't care about that.
Yeah,
like they're not Nintendo. Basically, starting with the Wii, but starting a bit sooner than the Wii, I think they stopped targeting the 18 to 35 demographic almost entirely. Like, they get sales from them, but it's not who they're targeting, which is super weird for anybody who grew up with Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, and like, I still know a lot of people that play Nintendo consoles and Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Mario Kart did not suddenly become less amazing, no.
Yeah, no, like, I guess that's the thing. It's like, they have these amazing games, like truly phenomenally amazing games, but the console experience feels subpar. Like, it just doesn't work as well as I'd expect it to. Be it the fact that the handheld unit can't be used away from the base station more than a few feet, to just integrating with the rest of the world. I don't know, like, it feels like a subpar experience. It's their version of the internet experience.
Yeah.
And it feels like they haven't quite admitted that the internet is going to be a thing, and it's going to be popular for a while.
I think that's true, and I think that that's the big thing that they're going to get from getting in bed with mobile. Is they're going to get the connections to get the people that do know how to do it right.
Well, and I guess in part of it too is like, even we were all excited about Miitomo, but
I wasn't that excited about Miitomo.
Well, like, there were a lot of people that were excited about it. I used it for a week or two, and then I realized, oh, this is just a really crappy social network.
You still aren't their target audience.
Yeah, but I don't think their target audience is their target audience either. Like, kids have Facebook. Kids have, the internet. They have mobile phones. Like, it's not like they're targeting to a niche audience that doesn't have these things.
I mean, that having been said, Miitomo per mid-April had 3 million downloads in a week.
Probably its first week.
Oh, absolutely. And there were tons of people using it that first week. But now you can tell who just joined the network because they're answering the questions that everyone else answered a few weeks ago. It's people aren't sticking around and staying on it. Mostly because, like, once you're in it, there's nothing to do. Like, yeah. Okay, it's a crappy chat client, but they haven't done anything with it yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't have a purpose yet.
No, but that's why I think you're going to start seeing Nintendo games on mobile interfacing with Miitomo.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they could make Miitomo be like Amiibo, to where, this is like your passport to do other things in other games.
I suspect that you're going to see a bunch of Nintendo-enabled stuff, and frankly, if you don't use your Miitomo account to log into Pokemon Go, I'm going to be kind of surprised.
They are kind of sort of consolidating their account structure, so yeah, that will almost certainly be a thing.
I think if nothing else, they could make a hell of a lot of money putting even just their 16-bit generation games out on another platform.
I don't think you're wrong, but I also don't think they'll do it.
I don't think they'll do it.
Because they are making a lot of money putting those games out on their own platforms.
Yeah, I was about to say, they're still making money putting those games out on their own platforms.
Yeah, but, like, you're dealing with a fraction of the possible audience.
It's true.
Like, there's still a lot of people that don't have a Wii U.
They're also getting all of the money.
Yeah, if you want to play a Nintendo game, you are going to buy a Nintendo platform and deal with less refined user interface because you really want to play Mario Kart.
Or you just download the damn ROM.
Yeah, but if you download the ROM, you can't play with your friends, or it's so much harder. They've kept a stranglehold on the I'm gonna get a bunch of friends and play on the couch, play this game with my friends on the couch, and even ROMs have a really hard time of imitating that experience in a non-clunky way.
The Raspberry Pi can do a really good job of emulating 16-bit hardware.
That's true.
As is evidenced by all the retro consoles that, support multiple platforms out there right now, like the Retron.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. So this is not part of our agenda, but there is a YouTube video. There's a YouTube video of the extra credits team playing what, according to one of their guys, he found in like a old NES game store, like a retro game store where he was looking for NES carts. And it was a NES cart that had a ROM hack of Mega Man with all of the sprites replaced with characters from the new My Little Pony.
Oh, that would be great. Now, see, just think, like, you know, if that were a Sega-made game, you could get that ROM hack through Steam Workshop.
It had the Nintendo seal of quality on it.
ROM hacks are amazing. Like, I have kind of kept up with, like, the Chinese pirate scene over the years, and, like, some of the 8-bit games that came out are truly phenomenal in their own way. Like, there were 8-bit Tekken 2, you know.
What?
Yeah, there's an 8-bit Tekken 2. Like, it's just a side, like a two-dimensional fighter, but, like, they came out with all these weird games after the fact in 8-bit form, and they're kind of amazing. Like, there's an illegitimate Street Fighter 2 8-bit hack that is actually way more playable than some of the versions of Street Fighter 2 on 16-bit hardware.
So say there were some awful versions of Street Fighter 2 released.
Yeah, like this.
Oh yeah.
This one was actually relatively good. Like, there was a unofficial PC version that was released at some point.
There's an official DOS version, and it's awful.
Yeah, but like this predates the DOS version. It has way less colors. But it was completely playable. Like, it was a really good port, and they should have used that for the official DOS port. But it was somebody's homebrew, you know, creation. So there's a lot of interesting ROM hacks out there.
Now, are most ROM hacks actually eventually like put onto a cart?
No.
No.
That video is a very, very special case.
Okay.
Yeah, very few people like... Well, okay, there are third-party sellers that will sell you ROM hacks as... Like, they'll actually recycle an old cartridge and burn it onto the ROM and give you cool-looking box art and stuff like that. There's the unofficial Star Fox 2 ROM that's been floating around the internet for ages. There's someone that will, like, take that and give you a Star Fox 2. And I want to say there's, like, another Castlevania game that never got released that people have done that with as well. Because, like, the 8-bit and the 16-bit era were full of games that never quite got released for one reason or another, but were sitting around somewhere in mostly finished state that somebody's been able to complete.
Oh man, digging up games in mostly finished states and completing them.
Yeah.
Is this something you have experience with?
Well, I mean, yes, but also I'm thinking of games like KOTOR 2 and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
KOTOR 2 is the first thing I thought of. You mentioned that.
I hope somebody does it with Overwatch.
To get that out of Blizzard's. Yeah.
Guarded, locked vault.
Yes.
I'm sure that there are people with the skills necessary to do that. It's just a matter of making it
happen.
worth their time, which probably is not going to happen. MI6 is like, wait, you want me to what? No.
They concerned themselves with some potential piracy of some Harry Potter books not too long ago, so...
Who, MI6?
Yes.
Okay, so one of my favorite things to do during the era of Harry Potter was to try and find leaked copies of the books, because they were never the leaked copies of the books. Because it was entertaining to see what was being passed off as the next Harry Potter book. Some of them were really entertaining. Some of them were the worst case of English you've ever seen.
Of Ingress?
English.
Oh.
I was thinking, like, terrible fanfic.
Oh, they are, but, like, they're not even... They're fanfic that was translated from another language.
Poorly,
yes.
I'm pretty sure we watched someone's fanfic today.
Wow, yeah. So, I really like this show, The Idolmaster, and dragged Kodra into it, because it's a super charming show.
It's a really fun show.
It turns out that there's like a new show that came out that's like, because The Idolmaster is a series of games, And so I guess whenever they do an anime, they just pick whatever game is happening now, or was the most popular when they decided to start making the anime or whatever, and use those characters and tell a slightly different story. And like the new one's really charming. It's charming in a different way than the old one, but I really like it. But while we were looking for it, we also found, what was this called?
Idolmaster Xenoglossia.
Which is already nonsense.
It predates the first Idolmaster anime we watched. It's from 2007. So yes. This is like after the games had come out.
This is after the games, but before they did an actual like playing it straight thing. And it's the characters in like a mecha show.
Yep.
But they're still like auditioning to be pop stars or something. I don't know.
They are auditioning to be idols. And idols in this world are what they call the mechas. So it's all of the characters from Idolmaster, only they
as
are
mecha pilots, I guess.
Pilots in mechas. And it's not clear to me that they realize what's going on. Like, at least it follows the main character from the first Idolmaster series we watched, had Haruka as sort of the main character. And she's the main character in this show as well. But, like, in Idolmaster, the anime we watched, it was all of the characters coming together in their own idol production, like, unit. And both sides, the good guys and the bad guys, were all together under one production studio 763, I think?
765.
765. And in this show, it's got the clear lines of delineation between the good people and the bad people. So it's very interesting, but it's like, this is somebody who wrote a fan fiction after playing Idolmaster in which the characters were mecha pilots and like get into deep, gritty fights with each other. And somebody made an anime of it.
It's shockingly weird.
Weird stuff gets greenlit a lot.
Yeah, but like the amount of effort that had to have gone into something like this, and it still is weird. Like, did nobody check in on it?
I feel like that's not even that weird as far as anime goes.
That's the thing, is it's like, it's not even that weird. It's just like a lot of anime. If you tried to distill it down into a sentence, it sounds incredibly weird.
Well, it's also weird if you imagine the production cycle of it.
I try not to imagine the production cycle of literally anything ever. I'll be totally honest.
Like, this is the really, like, we have a pretty negative connotation of the concept of fanfiction here. That does not really exist as much over there.
No,
like,
no. It's not just it's not just accepted. It's like sold in bookstores.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. I mean, you have authors that write fanfic of their own work.
Yes. And so, like, I understand how this person's, like, retelling of Idolmaster as girls fighting in a post-apocalyptic Japan in Mecha got greenlit into an anime. Because people read it and was like, this is awesome! We should totally make an anime of this.
I just find the concept of idols interesting.
They're super charming shows. I mean, the actual reality is not as charming.
Inky totally got me into BabyMetal this week, so I've been listening to a lot of BabyMetal.
BabyMetal is amazing.
It's really true.
BabyMetal is totally idol.
Also, yep. I kind of love Rob Zombie for his comments about BabyMetal.
Oh man. Kodra linked a video a little while back that was BabyMetal responds to YouTube respondents to BabyMetal, which was amazing.
It's the reacts videos. BabyMetal reacts to YouTubers react to BabyMetal.
Yeah,
that's too many levels.
Reacts have gone too far now.
It's adorable.
But like kawaii metal is an actual legitimate genre now.
No, yeah, no, it's totally a thing.
Like, there's lots of them now. It, kind of, honestly, like, the reason why I like BabyMetal is the same reason why I like being a Lalafell tank. It's a weird juxtaposition that's just adorable.
You it is. If you just like metal, it's gonna be weird because they juxtapose metal and J-rock a lot in their songs.
They do a lot of genre mixing.
Yeah.
I mean, they do genre mixing at about the same level as like Daft Punk does genre mixing. which is to say, hey, we had these genres. We have these leftover genres. Let's put them all together and see what happens.
I mean, it's very obviously an engineered band, but it works.
It's produced because it's an idol thing.
Yeah.
That's why they have producers.
I also loved reading, and I haven't listened to any of their music, but I loved reading the bunch of terrible guys who barely speak Korean started a successful K-pop band.
What?
We discussed this when Gangnam Style came out, right? Like, K-pop is not complicated, generally speaking.
K-pop is not, but yeah, K-pop is... I like K-pop, but it's not a complicated thing. Well, mostly not a complicated
Look,
thing.
if you say anything bad about K-pop, I'm pretty sure Lior will come over and cut you.
I love K-pop. Like, K-pop is delightful. It's just like, as a media sensation, that the history of K-pop is not a super complicated one compared to like other musical genres. And that's part of what I like about it, is it's really like straightforward and genuine in for certain things.
The one that cracks me up is what is it, LadyBaby?
I have no idea.
It's this guy that's known as Lady Beard, and he's got a kawaii metal band. And the story behind him is he was apparently an Australian wrestler that wasn't doing well or something like that. So somehow he ended up going over to Japan, and he now dresses in the traditional Japanese like maid outfit. And he's a dude with a beard and like does scream metal vocals.
Wow, that's interesting. I
don't
typically like scream metal.
But it's the same kind of juxtaposition of like BabyMetal, where it's like, here's metal, and then it's almost poppy for a bit, and then it's metal again. And because they released like a song that almost sounds like a tourism video.
See the river that catches on fire?
What?
Oh, hastily made Cleveland tourism video.
It's the best thing still after all this time.
It's funny that now that LeBron has left, got a championship, and come back, it's even funnier. Because it was made before he left the first time.
Oh man, there was a like prize fighter, like weird Cleveland tangent. There was a boxer, I want to say, or maybe MMA fighter from Cleveland who won the title, and like in his post-fight talk was like, I have broken the 52-year curse on Cleveland. We have finally won a championship. Cleveland has had not a good time with professional sports, despite having 3 professional sports teams.
They will pay lots of money to go see their professional sports. Just, no. The Indians were good in the 90s.
They were good. Did they ever win the series?
Nope. Got to it twice and lost.
God, this has gone way off topic. I'm not exactly sure how to rein it in either at this point. Like, I have a list of topics. I'm feeling like we're probably not even going to hit half of them. I don't know.
Whatever.
Just throw my hands up in the air.
Well,
I think
it's going to be one of those times for stuff and things.
Yeah, I feel like of the topics, the most interesting one is probably going to be the fact that Tam once again created his, arch nemesis.
It's true. He doesn't think so yet.
What's this?
Your Infinity Showdown today.
So, man, I get very nervous. Like, I get stressed out playing that game a lot, and I was very glad to have somebody who was willing to sit me down, walk me through sort of their mindset. I was able to explain my mindset, make suggestions, get feedback. It was good. And I feel like this game reminds me a lot of how I play chess. I am not good at the beginning part of chess. I am terrible at the beginning part of chess. That requires a lot of research and understanding about how to make opening moves and what those mean and how to like react to what your opponent is doing. And I don't know what any of that means. And that's kind of how I feel about deploying and taking your first turn in Infinity. Like, there is a lot of stuff that is not necessarily obvious from the start in Infinity. How to set up your side of the board, how to, like, approach your first turn. But once the first turn was over, I was able to, like, get my hand... Both of our resources were depleted, and things were sort of in a scattered state to where I could see what the right moves were. So I think I'm about half good at this game at this point. I still need to, like, get to the point where I'm confident in my opening moves.
Okay, but this isn't even touching on the most interesting fact that Tam shared before we started recording.
Which was...
How many times have you been beaten since arriving in Seattle, Tam?
Once.
Who did you get beaten by?
Kodra today.
See?
And he's gonna write it off as, oh, he got a bunch of help. But I've given the same level of help. I've given the same level of help to other people and not lost. And it was neat seeing him put me in situations that I didn't have a good way to get out of. That weren't the ones that I kind of helped him set up.
What are we talking about? The bringing the Clipsos up?
Well, no, because that was one that I described to you. It was the flamethrower, blowing away my guys in a line with the flamethrower, and camping your Link in the front, and just eating up my center board control with a bunch of not caring at all about what was actually there.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was one of those, like, so that was one of those things where you sort of told me what I had to do, and it's like you made a comment to me, you probably need to take that point this turn. I was like, all right, well, that's kind of that's a reach. I think taking that point was actually a pretty big reach, but if I was gonna put myself in a good position, I was like, well, I have to do this.
Yep. I mean, I think all I told you that turn was, this is what you need to do, and you figured all the rest out.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, that's part of why I like playing games, because you get to see interesting stuff that people come up with. Also, you stay on target in a way that a lot of people don't.
Oh, you mean like,
this is what I'm gonna do, this is what needs to happen, then I'll figure the rest of it out.
Yeah.
That for me, like, the secret to me winning a lot at Infinity is I open up my turn with, what do I need to do this turn? Let's do those things. And then, with remaining orders, I can win harder.
Yeah, which, like, and that was sort of the thing, like, the win harder was actually pretty relevant for me, because that's really what me getting my flamethrower there was.
Mm-hmm. At one point, I had a bunch of dudes that were all clumped up, and he brought a flamethrower from, like, the back of the board all the way up just to flamethrower a bunch of guys, and it knocked out all of them. I couldn't
flamethrower them before that turn because I could never present you with a target that you wanted to shoot.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I presented you with a target where you're like, well, I have to break cover to shoot this guy, I was then able to bring something up and get you with a template.
Yeah, it was a really nice, like, 2-stage lure.
For me, the tricky part is still going to be getting the rules down. Like, there's a lot of finicky bits to Infinity that I think take a lot of, like, figuring out. Like, especially when it comes to how breaking camo on the reactive turn works.
Breaking camo on the reactive turn is mostly just bad.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was kind of noticing. You mostly want to keep your camo markers as markers and move them around on your turn, and then get them into just the right spot, and then open up with their attacks.
I just find this sequence interesting, though.
Oh?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where getting more games is going to get me confidence, and eventually I'm going to learn what a 4-inch move looks like. But that's sort of my perpetual frustration with minis games, is I am not good at eyeballing distances.
Just to be able to look down at the board and see what is actually in the realm of possibility template-wise.
Or, yeah.
Or just like, how far do I need to move to do this thing? Or how far can I move? I'm really interested in seeing this trend of minis games to get rid of the whole you can't measure things ahead of time. Because it used to be a big thing, like, nope, you've got to be able to eyeball the distance and you don't get to measure it until you commit. And
I think that's bullshit.
I do too, and it's going away. Like, several big minis games have gotten rid of it, and I think that's great.
I think that's great too, because not knowing how that's going to work out it feels like what poor controls in a video game feel like. It's like, I did not want you to do this. Why? Like, you were supposed to do a thing, but because I misjudged because my eyeball doesn't know exactly what this is, the game didn't message well to me that I was not able to get to do the thing.
Yeah, you little hopped off of a ledge instead of cinematically jumping.
Boy, have I done a lot of stupid little hops off of a ledge.
I think I mentioned this. I don't think Uncharted 2 lets you do those couple hops.
That's really good.
P.S. Check out that segue.
Boom!
Yeah, boom!
I'm gonna ruin it by calling
Thanks for calling it. Yeah, exactly.
There are times we almost know what we're doing.
So
almost.
I've gotten to the point in Uncharted 1 where it became a surprise zombie game. Surprise! It's a zombie game. But it's starting to grow on me a little bit. I think the gunplay is kind of terrible. And there was a sequence, and I'm not sure if I didn't realize how the sequence was working, where you get on a jet ski, and you're driving as Nathan Drake, and your sidekick Elena is like shooting a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, but like it's not. It's one of those times where I was like, this is not cinematic because I am either driving or aiming the grenade launcher. But I'm not like doing this cool continuous motion thing. But then when I got to the second sequence, she had a pistol, and I found out if you don't aim, you can just like press the fire button and she will shoot at something, which allowed me to make it feel a lot more cool. Like as I drove up this river and was shooting these explosive barrels.
My god, explosive barrels everywhere.
There are so many explosive barrels. The game is like, the language of the game is hilarious to me. It's actually very funny. I feel like it's been a while since I've played a game where I was shooting locks. Like, there's a door, it is locked. How do you fix this? You shoot a bullet at the lock and it shatters into a million pieces. And then you get to go through the door. What I keep flashing back to as I'm playing this game is Goldeneye. And I kind of am I realize Goldeneye is a tie-in to a movie, but I feel like Goldeneye is one of the first, like, really cinematic games I remember. It had a lot of set pieces in its single-player campaign. And I'm trying, like, I'm wondering if a lot of that stuff has carried, like, that was sort of the formation for the Uncharted, like, a lot of the stuff they did in GoldenEye carried over into Uncharted, because, like, I keep going back to levels I played in GoldenEye as I'm playing this game.
This is the point where I admit that I never actually played GoldenEye other than a little bit of multiplayer, so I really don't have any point of reference.
GoldenEye, like, it followed the movie very well for the most part. Did you see GoldenEye the movie?
Yeah, I've seen the GoldenEye the movie. But...
like, it did a lot of things where it was following the movie, and like there was a scene where you were on a train and you had to like fight through some dudes, and then you got to a floor that had a bunch of like locks that you had to use your laser cutting watch to get out of and to bail out of the boxcar.
It was really neat.
Like, yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff in that game, in the single player especially. And then the multiplayer was just really well beloved. Really fun. But it made me wonder, like, what the history of cinematic video games, like, where that DNA is being drawn from.
Well, I don't know if it's actually coming from other games. I mean, I think it's attempting to make a game feel like a movie. Because at least on the PC side of things, the raw pieces of this were there already. It was just piecing it together and making it feel more movie-like with the incorporation of a lot more cinematics. Because I feel like games like Unreal 2, for example, told a really good story, it just didn't quite feel cinematic. Or, Return to Castle Wolfenstein also told a really cool story, but it didn't feel cinematic.
See, yeah, I don't think cinematic is just about cutscenes, though. I think there's more to it than that. Like, where ideally it's something where the action is varied enough, and like what you are doing in the game sort of keeps changing, like so that
the
pieces.
The thing for cinematic, like, I can't wait for you to be able to start Uncharted 2, because for me, when I think of cinematic, I think of the first scene of Uncharted 2. The first, like, actual gameplay scene. Aisha knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it's awesome. It's still, like, one of the coolest levels in a game that I've played. Like, it's a little sequence, but it's really cool.
Well, I'll be there shortly. I am making my way through the final level. This also has the Assassin's Creed 2 thing where they might have run out of budget and they padded the end with a lot of combat.
I think that's a lot of games, though, because, like, to some extent, I remember having this conversation where I felt like there was just a lot of excessive combat at the end of Wolfenstein New Order. Like, it just felt like they were just throwing a lot of mobs at you to increase quote-unquote difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's common. It's like, what do we need to spike the difficulty here, and so what I think was supposed to be an interesting fight becomes a slog.
Yeah. Things become more bullet spongy.
I don't know if it's just running out of budget that causes this, really, because there's a very... Well, you'll get there. I'll be curious to find out what you think about the end of Uncharted 2.
Does it also get combat heavy at the end?
It ends with a particular sequence that'll let you find out when you get there.
Yeah, right? I was just thinking that.
Well, I'm going to keep playing through, and it's sort of going to be interesting, because it's fun already. I'm curious if I'm going to want to get Uncharted 4 at the end of this process. But I'm glad that I'm getting to experience apparently a genre of games I never did.
It's one of those, it's a really fun genre of games if you play only the good ones. And luckily you can.
Well, do we have anything else that we necessarily are dying to talk about before we close the show?
Not really.
Not really.
Okie doke. Well, hopefully everyone enjoyed this extremely rambly episode.
I love rambly episodes.
And hopefully next time we'll have Grace, at least. I am not sure if Thalen will be back from his long vacation.
I don't have toast for all the jelly I have.
I know. The pictures of the Eorzea Cafe were like so much jealousy.
So we're supposed to talk about Dishonored next week.
Yes. We'll see if that actually happens, because I will be out of town over the Memorial Day weekend. But we'll see if we can figure something out.
If not, we can push it a week. It happens.
Yep. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night!
Good night.
Bye.
See you.
Hey, folks, talk and stuff.
Why do you command me to talk?
'Cause reasons.
Nope.
Because morality.
Nope.
Oh gosh, because morality might still be my favorite line of that game.
I don't even know what game you're talking about.
Censorbot from Borderlands 2.
Oh!
Censorbot wants you to go and censor all of the, I think it's bad words in that like somebody is being foul-mouthed and you need to go censor them by murdering them. And so the line is, we need you to go murder them because morality.
This is going to be an excellent stinger, just saying.
Is it overly meta if we talk about the stinger in the stinger?
I'm sure it probably is.
I mean, I guess the
I don't
follow-up
care.
question is, do we care? And I don't think.
No, I don't care.
No, of course we don't care.
At all.
Whatever. This was a sound check anyway.